Before we begin our service, we take a moment to dedicate this sanctuary in person. Last year, we dedicated this space on Zoom. But tonight, in the presence of the confirmation class of 1980 and all of Edie Bernstein's family, we are together with tremendous gratitude that we can be together again for this holy time. First, I want to say a very heartfelt thank you to Alan Bernstein, who gave us a generous donation, which is going to help with our sanctuary overhaul, which is going to begin later this year. And second, we pay homage to Edie Bernstein of blessed memory, for whom this sanctuary is dedicated. Edie loved her family. She loved this congregation. She loved this confirmation class. And she loved this particular sanctuary, where she served on the R&R committee as youth choir director and frequent Shabbat participant. Edie, we miss you, and we may remain forever grateful to you. And to offer some remarks, we invite to the bema at this time Edie Bernstein's son, Alan, to offer a few thoughts about Edie.
Thank you, Rabbi Kosnowski. I am Alan Bernstein. I'm the oldest of Edie and Joel's children. I'm also joined here tonight by my father. He's here somewhere, I hope. There he is. And my brothers, Michael and David, as well as family and friends in the confirmation class. In the late fall of 1974, my parents made a very frustrating trip out to the Chicago suburbs. They were living in Connecticut, and Dad was in the process of taking a job in Chicago. They traveled out here to look for housing for their family of them and 3 young children. There was not a lot of information available. The weather was uncooperative, and their plans, which had been to take a place in Skokie or Winnetka or something like that, fell through. And at the last moment, before they had to grab a flight back, they grabbed a short-term rental, 6 months in Elmhurst, Illinois, where Jerry and Carol Wolin and their family, who we had known from Stanford, had moved back. And that's how we wound up in Elmhurst. It was a mistake. And when we moved here, we joined the congregation, and this is what I've been thinking about. I'm thinking about how audacious it was to start a congregation in the late 60s and early 70s in the western suburbs of Chicago, where there weren't Jews. And I'm thinking about how I grew up with this confirmation class, so many of whom are here from all over the country. I'm so tempted to say names, and I'm so sure that if I start saying names, I'll leave people off. But, you know, Mark and Bruce and Steve and Debbie and our adopted Sharon, the daughter of Diane, the sister of Diane, and whoever I've forgotten, I apologize. But what I want to say is, I've been thinking a lot about how random it is, how people wind up in a place and they create memories and lives together. I'm thinking about our parents who are here tonight, and then I'm thinking about people like my mom, obviously, but you know, I'm also thinking of Millie, because Ed couldn't be here with us tonight because he's under the weather. But you know, Millie and Jerry Smolin and Jackie and Harold Holt and other parents who aren't here, but they are here with us. And I'm thinking about the miracle that you hear about when you're growing up, that our children are here, my children and many of your children, and they're growing up, and some of them are having children. And I'm thinking how much my mother loved all of that, how much she loved bringing people together, how much she loved creating memories, how much she loved the confirmation class that once we're done with this, we're going to turn to acknowledging and honoring. She was our youth choir leader. I don't even know if you young people understand how random that was, but In the 1970s, Reform music was sort of stuck in a rut, and then Debbie Smolin came down from Osrui and wherever she was and sort of invented this new genre of more relatable music, and the kids loved it, and Mom found Rachel Baruch, who had a guitar, and she directed, and we sang, and it was a lot of youth and vitality in a young congregation. But what I really want to say, more than anything, as we dedicate this sanctuary, and what my hope is, and what I think my mom's hope would have been, I feel like I knew her pretty well, is Judaism doesn't really mandate that we believe very much. There's a lot of room to believe a lot of different things, and it's really okay to believe that we're all here randomly, that we're just a bunch of people who couldn't figure out housing when we flew in a stormy late winter, or we're moving up from St. Louis and wound up here rather than there, that it's all just random and chaotic. But what faith gives me, and I think what it gave my mother, was a belief that we're actually more unified than that, that somehow or other we're meant to be here together. We're meant to touch each other's lives. Bruce, I think I didn't acknowledge you, and you certainly would hold a grudge. So, Bruce, my friend. We're meant to touch each other's lives. And it may all be scientific and explainable, some pheromone that draws us together and mandates our destiny. I don't know. To me, that's what faith is. That's what Judaism gives me, is a belief that it's not all random, that we didn't wind up in Elmhurst for no reason, that my children aren't here tonight for no reason, that my father and my family and my friends aren't here, that you aren't here if I don't know you. And my hope for this sanctuary is that it continues to be a place that seemingly just randomly pulls people together and gives you a community and a place to find your spirituality and develop it. But maybe it's not random. Maybe we're meant to know each other and to touch each other and to love each other and help each other. And that is what I learned from Edie Bernstein. It is that that's what we can do for each other. We can be kind to each other. We can support each other. We can build each other up. That's my mom's legacy. And if you didn't know her, I thought it was a very good idea to put her name up on the door, because I think what she stands for is what Reform Judaism stands for, and what the rabbis and the community and the leadership are all doing here to build and to develop. And so if I know you, please accept my gratitude that you've been a part of my life and that you've made me a better person. And if I don't know you, I hope I get to know you, but please know that my true spiritual belief is that it's not random, that we're not here together accidentally tonight. We may never fully understand why, and that may not be the important part, but the important part is that humans come together, and somehow in their interactions we become better people, better children, better parents, better leaders, closer to our God. And I hope that, as for more than 40 years the sanctuary has done for me, it continues to do it one day at a time for all of you. And I thank you very much for this opportunity to revisit my mom's memory, because I miss her. But we have each other, and I'm glad for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. We come now to Shabbat, a holy time of peace and joy with community and friends. We are in the second week of the Hebrew month of Elul, and we are currently counting the days to Rosh Hashanah, acutely aware of unwritten sermons. There are three rabbis in the house tonight who will be helping lead services, and we always like to acknowledge the rabbis in the room. We have Edie Bernstein's niece, Rabbi Beth Jackowitz-Chotner, who is joining us from Kentucky, and we are so thrilled to have you with us tonight, Rabbi Jackowitz-Chotner, and of course Rabbi Weiner, and there is a connection with Rabbi Weiner as well, but we're going to reveal that. That's going to be our reveal later in our sermon. And of course, I will help lead the music tonight, honoring the Debbie Friedman tradition. So we begin our service with the singing of Ma Yafeh Hayom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, shalom. Shabbat, shalom. So the ground rules of participating in our service tonight is that all of us stay masked, and we know how to wear our masks as we have been doing this for a while now. But when you come to the reading stand for your part, I'm going to ask you to remove your mask. So our wonderful controller of the cameras, 2 cameras in the back. So if you're in the witness protection program, please keep your face hidden. But we are live streaming. We have somebody wonderful from somewhere in the country, I think California, but I'm not sure, who is doing our live streaming. And so we take our masks off when we're up here. We say our part, and then when you leave the reading stand, please put your mask back on. And in that spirit, I am going to ask Debbie, Sarah, and Joe Shudroff to come to the bima to sanctify our Shabbat candles and continue on page 6 with a reading.
Asher kiyashanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship.
May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture.
May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity.
May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet.
May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness.
May this synagogue be for all who enter the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life.
We continue now with the Baruch Hu on page 28. Please rise.
La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai
Please be seated. It's my pleasure now to invite up Noah and Lee Chotner to lead us in Ma'ariv Aravim and our following reading.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah poteach sha'arim, uvitvuna mishaneh itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmeretehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Uma'avir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzivaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv arvim.
Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael.
We continue now with the Shema on page 34. Please rise. Please be seated as we invite up to the reading table Naomi Bernstein to lead us in Ve'ahavta.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'elech asher anochi metzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibartav bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha u'leftecha v'derech u'shofbecha u'vkumecha u'kshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'negnecha u'tavtam al mizuzot beitecha u'visharecha Leman tizkeru ve'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem.
We now invite up to the reading table David and Michael Bernstein to lead us in the readings on page 39.
Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt, we were delivered at Sinai. We bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets, instructed by sages, time and again, we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages. Your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
We continue on page 40 with Mi Chamocha.
I'd like to invite up to the reading table now Abby Heisler and Joel Bernstein as we continue with our service on page 41.
Sing the song of men and women, joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come. The song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home, to leave no more. The song of a world redeemed, the song of peace.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, apares hukar shalom aleinu, v'yakol amo Yisrael v'yal Yerushalayim.
We continue in our Sidurim, in our prayer book, with the singing of Vishamru. In 6 days, God created the world, but on the seventh day, God rested from God's duties. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot oti leolam vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasod et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam ki sheshet yamim Asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. We continue in our Sidurim, in our prayer book, with our Congregational Tafila, which can be found starting on page 46. If you are able to do so at this time, will the congregation please rise? Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanorah El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Koneh HaKol V'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot Umevi Geula Livnei V'Nehem Lema'an Shemo B'Yahava Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen Baruch atah Adonai Magin Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai Mechaye Meitim Atah Rav Lehoshia Morid Hatal Mechalkel Chaim V'Chesed Mechaye Meitim Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim Umatir Asurim Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot Umido Melach Melech Memit Umechaye Umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman atah lahachayot meitim Baruch atah Adonai Mechaye hametim Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh Ukdoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. Will the congregation please be seated?
Now I'd like to invite up to the reading table Jeff Heisler and Steve and Nancy Zuckerman as we continue reading on page 55.
May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat.
You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, and our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are still clear-voiced within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers.
There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, She'odcha v'ladcha b'yirad na'avod.
It's my pleasure now to invite up Natalie Bernstein as we continue on page 58, followed by Sharon Holt.
Modim anachnu lach she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu le'olam va'ed. Tzur chayinu magen yishenu ata hu lador vador. We acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai, our God, and the God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives and the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your care, for your miracles that we experience every day, and for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, and noon. O good one, whose mercies never end, O compassionate one, whose kindness never fails, we forever put our hope in you. For all these things, O sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai, your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ucha na'eh lahodo.
God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth, which day by day sustains us. For all these things and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ucha lahadot.
We pause now for a moment of silent meditation. Say shalom, shalom bimrumav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Oh, say shalom, shalom bimrumav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, amen. Yisrael ve'imru Amen. We come now to Seder Kriyat HaTorah, the service for the reading of the Torah. And it is my pleasure to invite to the bima to take the Torahs out of the ark, Rabbis Weiner and Jackowitz Chotner. Now, here is our new minhag, our new custom at Congregation Etz Chaim. You see, we still want to be able to bring Torah into our midst, but we don't want you to climb all over each other and touch the Torah with your sidurim, because that's not social distancing now, is it? So instead, we bring Torah into our midst, but we stay right where we are. Our minhag, our custom, will return to once again when we can touch the Torah with our sidurim, but for now, we want to keep everyone safe, and we stay right where we are. And in that spirit, I ask you to please rise while we invite our rabbis to take the Torahs out of the ark and into the congregation. Al shlosha divarim, al shlosha divarim, al shlosha divarim, ha'olam omed. Al shlosha divarim, al shlosha divarim, al shlosha divarim, ha'olam omed. Al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'hishtachavu behar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'hishtachavu behar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Please be seated.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
It's hard to believe how many years ago, but we know that the confirmation class was 41 years ago, so it's more than that. On this Shabbat, I read this Torah portion as I became a bat mitzvah. And my aunt, oh bless the memory, and my uncle and my cousins were there with me in New Jersey. And so now here I am with my aunt in this beautiful sanctuary, dedicated in her memory. I had something planned to say, but when I think about what this Torah portion is about, it's really about how to be a better person. It really embodies my aunt, Edie Bernstein, whether it was helping those in need, whether it was being respectful of other people's things and their property, treating animals with love, as she did Muffin. Whether it's, there's so many examples in this week's Torah portion. It's keeping your word, following through on what you say you're going to do. So there's much more I could say about this week's Torah portion and how it connects with my aunt, but I think it's, in essence, it's really a continuation in some ways of last week's Torah portion where we're taught, tzedek, tzedek tirdof, justice, justice, you shall pursue. And my aunt, Edie Bernstein, pursued justice all the days of her life. May her memory be for a blessing. Shabbat Shalom.
And so, it is such a treat to have all of our friends and family, people who are connected to both Edie Bernstein and to our confirmation class, to come up to the Bima at this time and to participate in the service. It is my pleasure to invite Edie Bernstein's grandson for the Aliyah and Becca Heisler. Ya'amod Yitzchak ben Betzalel la'aliyah haTorah. Ta'amod. Becca, I don't see your, you gave me your Hebrew name and I don't have it, so I'm going to invite you forward in English and then you're going to whisper it to me so I can call you up by your Hebrew name. Erev Rav Becca Heisler. She is almost a rabbi. Whisper. Ta'amod Rivka Shoshana bat Moshe Beruth. Oh, sorry about that. See, water goes flying. La Aliyah HaTorah, Likro HaTorah.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'na'atan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Amen. Ki titze lemilchama al oivecha, v'natano Adonai Elohecha biyadecha, v'shavita shivyo. V'ra'ita b'shivya eshet yifat toar, v'chashachta ba v'lakachta lecha leisha. V'haveta el toch betecha, v'gilcha et rosha, v'asta et tziparnecha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. Now, before I let you go back down, we should always be in a rush to come to the Torah, but not to leave the Torah. Let's take our mask off for 1 second. Look at that camera up there, and we're gonna do. See, this is like a selfie on steroids. Just for the record, I did her bat mitzvah and confirmation and his baby naming, so we can just saying, you know. All right, Yasher Koch, go say it.
Yasher Koch.
Yasher Koch. All right. Well done. That's the beauty. When you've been here a little while, you've been in one place, you know, we share our lives together. It's really terrific. All right. At this time in our worship service, our thoughts turn to those of our community and families who are ill and in need of healing. We think this evening of Carol and Larry Nymark, Stefano Michelasi, Barbara Gwynn, Denise Blackburn, James Barger, Alan Wolski, Kevin Larson, Linda Babcock, Sarah Warch, Gary Tatiner, Joan Katz, Erin Gentile, Laurie Norberg, Dennis William Ferguson, Elwood Frederick Bryan, and all who suffer, whom we know not by name. Mi sheberach avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov ve'imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah hu yivarech v'irapeh et kol cholei Yisrael v'yishlach lahem b'imheira refuah shlema refuah tanefesh refuah taguf and nomar. Amen. May God, who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal all who are stricken. May the Holy One of Praise mercifully restore them to health and to vigor. May God grant them health of body, health of spirit, and of mind. And let us say together, Amen. We continue with Misha Beirach. Misha Beirach avotenu mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
The B'nai Mitzvah process starts about a year in advance of a student's date. Although students really don't start meeting for their formal training until about 6 months prior to that date, families begin to wake up that it's time because students can start signing in for their 13 required services. Tonight, we have a special opportunity to publicly begin one person's B'nai Mitzvah journey. So it is my pleasure to invite Micah Greenberg to the Bima to receive his prayer book. Micah, come on over here. Just stand with Rabbi. Okay? All right. Because of COVID, we sent all of the last year's sixth graders their prayer books in the mail. So Micah isn't really getting his physical prayer book because he has it. What he is getting tonight is a recognition that he is going to stand here a year from now to become a bar mitzvah. And maybe at that time we'll have a sixth grader to whom he can pass a prayer book to and share the same Torah portion, Ki Teitzei.
And so, we link tradition and Torah together, building and strengthening the fabric of our Jewish community. And if there's anyone besides Micah and Rabbi Jackowitz-Chotner who has had this Torah portion, Ki Teitzei, I invite you to come to the Bima at this time for a special blessing. So, Rabbi, you have to come back. Is there anybody else? You have to be the leader for everybody else who had the Torah portion, Ki Teitzei, to come up to the Bima. Nobody remembers that they had Ki Teitzei? Okay. So, Micah, would you mind taking your mask off for 1 second? You don't have to. I just want you to look up at that camera. See that camera up there? Okay, look really cute? Good. All right. All right. Just these two, Rabbi and Micah. I ask everyone else to please rise. Rabbi, would you help me with the threefold priestly benediction for both you and Micah and our congregation? Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha.
May God's countenance shine upon you and be gracious to you.
Okay. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yisem lecha shalom.
May God's face always shine upon you, and may God grant you the choicest of all gifts, peace.
Okay. Amen and amen. And while we're still standing, it is my pleasure to invite up our Hagba and Golelet. Ya'amod Baruch ben Ruvain upesha Hagba, ta'amod Yaakova bat Masha Golelet. Vizot HaTorah Aser Samoshe Lifnei V'nei Yisrael Al Pi Adonai Biyad Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva Lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva Lanu Moshe. Will the congregation please be seated? We continue in our prayer book on page 258 and 259, and it is my pleasure to bring our microphone to our 4 participants who will be participating in the prayer for Israel and the prayer for America. Here we go. You guys are going to go first. Rich and Harriet Heisler.
O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Help us to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we serve you.
Bless our country, that it may always be a stronghold of peace and its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within its borders, health and happiness within its homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship among the inhabitants of all lands, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. We praise you, O God, the source of peace. Amen.
Amen. And Paulette and Ron Weininger will continue on the bottom of page 259, Prayer for the State of Israel.
O Heavenly One, Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen.
And continue our service as we rise to return the Torah to the ark. Eitz Chaim hi lemachazikim ba v'tomcheha meushar derachea darchei Noam v'chol netivotecha shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu Kikedem. Please be seated. It is my pleasure to invite to the Bima to offer some remarks about our fabulous confirmation class of 1980 reunion, my brother-in-law, Mark Heisler.
The promise of a generation. That was the topic of a speech C.J. Craig, the fictional presidential press secretary from the West Wing, was to have given at her high school reunion in a season 4 episode. Couldn't do it, Bruce, sorry. Thank you. Due to standard dramatic interference, she never had the opportunity to tell us what that promise was, so I thought I'd take a stab at it. And first, a little background and some disclosure. The confirmation class of 1980, several of whom of us who are here tonight, represented a new hope for Congregation Eitz Chaim. There were 20 of us in our B'nai Mitzvah year, and by confirmation, we were still 16 strong. And I want to read the names because there's no way I'd remember them all, right, A.B.? So, in no particular order except the order that we appear on our picture out in the hallway, Bruce, Daryl Lemick, this says Kemick, but I know that's not right, Bill Fine, Danny Robinson, Ed Feinstein, Diane Holt, Sharon's here, yay, thank you for representing, Shlomo Crandis, Debbie Smullen, Johnny Trefimo, Robin Byer, me, Jackie Goldman, Steve Zuckerman, Linda Wolin, Alan Bernstein, and Rabbi Robinson and Merle Ehrlich. Just wanted to get that all out there. At the time, there had not been a class our size, and there wouldn't be another for a long time after. We were the promise of our generation. The idea of firsts is strong with us. We were first in many ways. We were the first group of youth group kids who insisted on 2 elections every year so that more people could have a chance to lead. Made sense at the time. Our advisor, Jerry Berman, or Burmy as we lovingly called him, was really a genius. We were the first class to have a high percentage spend part of our summers at Asrui, together. We were the first to sing in an Eitz Chaim junior choir. We were the first to bring the music of Debbie Friedman and Jeff Klepper into the Edie Bernstein Sanctuary. We were the first to sing that Oseh Shalom at Mike's bar mitzvah. Kind of a cool thing. Every time I hear that song, I think of your mom. In fact, the core of this class got together in first grade. Where's Debbie? Put your hand up. Steve, where are you? First grade, right? That was a long time ago. 1970, in fact. And we've been this close ever since. We have staying power. We are the first confirmation class to regularly come back to Eitz Chaim for reunions, and every chance we get, we celebrate our firsts. We are the first and maybe only class at Eitz Chaim that connects Rabbi Jay Sangerman with Rabbi Stephen Bob. For those of you old-timers who've been around a while, think about that for a minute. We had Rabbis Goldwasser and Robinson in between. We're the only class that I'm aware of that has direct family connections with every rabbi this congregation has ever had. In addition to the 4 rabbis just mentioned, Rabbi Spanger was at Asrui and U of I with a bunch of us. Rabbi Kaznowski, thankfully, married off her sister to one of us. Love you, Blondie. Rabbi Camel's father-in-law is a professional colleague of one of us, and Rabbi Wayner's father and Edie were colleagues, and he's Joel's physician today. And her younger sister, Carrie, went to Asrui with at least one of our daughters. So all of these rabbinical connections to a single class here at Eitz Chaim, a big first. There's one other first that should finally be discussed from this bima. We have the dubious distinction of being the first, and thankfully only, Eitz Chaim confirmation class not to receive a blessing on the occasion of our confirmation. But wait, there's more. For those of you not familiar with this story, there might be 1 or 2 of you in the room tonight. I'll be brief and tell you what happened. But before I talk about that night, I have a little more to say about our religious school experience. We had some amazing teachers. Joe Hershander of blessed memory, Linda Labby, Jerry Greenberg, Ashley Rose, who just, believe it or not, celebrated his bar mitzvah at what age? 91. Oh, God bless you, Ashley. Natalie Cohen, and of course, the best teacher ever, 9th grade, Norm Crandis of blessed memory. They treated us like adults, even when we were not, even when we didn't act like it. They drew us up to their level rather than teach down to ours. Joe Hershander allowed Steve to have at least 3 birthdays in 2nd grade. Where are you, Steve? You look great for 60. It's amazing. And Norm found a way to engage us like we had never been engaged before. He opened our eyes to the greater world around us and taught us to consider everything from a Jewish context through the lens of Torah. It was nothing short of miraculous for Norm to hold this group of 9th graders' collective attention for an hour or more every Sunday for a year. He was amazing. But then came confirmation class. It was a year of failed connections, of black and white 16mm films featuring the teachings of great Jewish thinkers and philosophers. Dull. It was a year of tedious reading and very little discussion. In short, it was a year that we felt wasted our time and our goodwill after such an amazing 9th grade experience. So, we did what every group of 15 and 16-year-olds did when they were bored by a class or a teacher. We took it out on our teacher. Poor Rabbi Robinson. His son Danny was in our class and was very uncomfortable with our behavior and, quite honestly, hated being associated with it and with us. We were disrespectful, we were disengaged. On many Sundays, we just disappeared to White Castle, to Yorktown Mall, to a dark, quiet corner in the old basement, anything, any place to avoid more boring class time, more blah, blah, blah. As it turns out, our behavior wasn't ignored. Our parents would hear snippets of the ridiculous ways we acted out, and some of us got questioned pretty well about it. But Kids will be kids, and the year went on toward its inevitable conclusion, our confirmation service. We were each tasked with writing a speech. I rebelled, and I refused, and I negotiated to sing a song instead, although during our final walkthrough of the service, when Rabbi Robinson realized I was singing someone else's song and not an original composition, he became kind of angry and threatened to keep me out of the service. At that point, I really didn't care. We really didn't care. During the service, Rabbi Robinson took the time a blessing would normally be offered to tell the assembled congregation what a lousy class we were and that he really didn't think any of us would remain Jewish. He did exempt his own son. The verbal rocks that he hurled that night hurt, and they upset us, and they upset our families tremendously. Alan courageously refused the gift of a new high holiday siddur being offered by the congregation. Poor Merle Ehrlich. Merle, are you here tonight? God bless you. As religious school principal that year, she was stuck right in the middle. The trauma of the evening created a rift that was almost fatal to this community, with many, including some of our parents, agreeing with Rabbi Robinson and his approach, and many more calling for his immediate ouster. In the end, it was that night that ultimately resulted in the hiring of Rabbi Bob, and the rest is history. Eitz Chaim has thrived ever since. So this week's Torah portion from the book of Deuteronomy, chapters 21 to 25, include a few verses that discuss what a parent should do with a wayward child. Ironic. The solution suggested for a disobedient child's behavior that doesn't change after standard discipline is to take that child to the elders of the town, quite possibly to the Bima here at Eitz Chaim, so that they might publicly stone the child to death. When I read this passage from chapter 21, verse 21, I was dumbstruck by its relevance to the story of this night that I was planning to tell. Thus you will sweep out evil from your midst, and all Israel will hear and be afraid. Thankfully, we were hit only with figurative stones and not literal stones. Rabbi Robinson stood us up in front of the elders of the community, and he nailed us. That we had it coming was never in doubt. That his timing was questionable is a fact. How interesting, then, to discover that his approach was prescribed in this week's Parsha. It's stunning, really. Okay, then how could this possibly lead me back to the topic of the promise of a generation? Here's how. This group of my closest friends represents the promise of our generation. Not only are we all still Jewish, but we're all actively Jewish. We've helped lead Jewish organizations from this community to others just like it around this area and around this country. Not to mention, there are those in our class that support Jewish causes around the world. We've studied Jewish topics, we've married Jewish spouses, we've raised Jewish kids, many of whom are here tonight. We've celebrated Jewish holidays, even together. We've taught in Jewish classrooms, we've led Jewish youth groups, we've donated our time and our treasure to Jewish causes. In short, each one of us has done our part, however large or small, to help secure a Jewish future for our people. This group of friends have dated each other, we've gone to public school and university together, we've stood up at each other's weddings, sometimes more than once. We've been godparents to each other's kids, we've celebrated simchas together, we've mourned losses together, and in that defining moment of May of 1980, we've been publicly stoned together. Steve, not like that. We have survived, and we have thrived. Together. At our 35th reunion, we gave money to plant a tree in honor of our teachers that still stands shading a corner of the parking lot. I do my best to get here early every time I come over here to get that parking spot, to park beneath our tree. It's really kind of cool. We've raised money this year as a gift to the Eitz Chaim Religious School, and hopefully Marla and the school committee will find a meaningful way to use that money. Remaining bound together for more than 40 years, this confirmation class of 1980 represents the promise of a generation. May we go from strength to strength. May God bless this holy congregation and all of us with happiness, with good health, and with peace. Shabbat shalom.
Oh, no, you must stay here. Because
Put my mask on.
I have to give my rebuttal to such a sermon. And the rebuttal is that, to say the least, your class has merited the blessing that it didn't receive at confirmation. And so, the big reveal was not just that Edie and Rabbi Wehner's father were colleagues, but Edie Bernstein made Rabbi Wehner's baby blanket back when Rabbi Wehner was first born. So it's very appropriate that somehow she is here as one of our rabbis today. And you, as the confirmation class, have truly embodied the promise of a generation. You could have taken that experience and said, forget this, we're out of here. But no, you stayed, you engaged, you built Jewish communities everywhere that you lived. And truly, you have merited the blessing that you were denied on your confirmation. And so, with 3 female rabbis in the house, which would have pleased Edie to no end, I'm going to ask all the rabbis in the room, and even the Erev rabbi, to come up to the bima, and the confirmation class and those who are standing in for the confirmation class of 1980 to come to the ark for a blessing while we hold a tallis over you, symbolizing not only the baby blanket, but also the Sukkot Shalom, the canopy of peace spread over all of us, while I ask God's blessing upon them. And I ask the congregation at this time to please rise. Okay. Confirmation class? Okay. Becca? Okay. So Beth, you're going to stand up here. Becca, you're going to stand here. Okay, take a corner. You're going to open the ark. We're going to raise. Everybody is going to come under the canopy. May this canopy represent the blessing that you didn't receive back then and be the blessing that you are today. Yeverechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha Ya'er Adonai panav elecha vaykuneka Yisa Adonai panav elecha vayasem lecha shalom vayasem lecha shalom. May God bless you and keep you. May God be kind and gracious unto you. May God's countenance be lifted up unto all of you and your families and grant you all continued peace. And let us say together, Amen. Yasher Koach, class of 1980. And while we're still here, we continue. Go ahead and close the ark. I will actually, go ahead and close the ark, ladies. And I'm going to ask everyone to please be seated while we invite Paul Hines to the bima for the Board of Director announcements.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I want to thank everyone for being here at tonight's service. This has been quite an entertaining one. I'm glad I'm here. Just a few announcements. Coming up on Tuesday at 7:30, Rabbi Koznowski will be teaching via Zoom how to prepare for the high holidays. She will focus on holiday ideas and concepts to better understand the nature of the days of awe. You will learn practical and spiritual ideas to make the season more meaningful and relevant to our modern lives. Next Saturday is Selichot Palooza, starting at 5 o'clock. Mark your calendars. We have free food, a bubble maker, scotch and wine tasting, professional obstacle course, and much more. Our traditional service will start at 7:30. Hopefully by now you've received our high holiday brochure in the mail. It contains details about our services, upcoming services. As a quick reminder, Rosh Hashanah begins on Monday night, September 6th. All of our services will be streamed. However, if you plan to attend in person, you must register in advance. You can do this on the website under the High Holiday section link. Lastly, the Social Action Committee is asking for our help to support the victims of Surfside tragedy in Florida. Our lobby Tzedakah box is set up for donations, or you can donate online through our donation page on our website. Thank you to the rabbis for leading our service in music, Joe Benora for ushering, and Rachel Wood for being our greeter tonight. Next Friday night, on the 27th, Shabbat service will start at 7:30 and will take place here in our sanctuary. We will officially dedicate and rename our religious school in honor of Al Copeland and his wife Jean of blessed memory. Shabbat Shalom.
We now turn to the Aleinu as we begin to conclude our service. It's my pleasure to invite up Jared, Jacob, and Joe Koznowski to help us open the ark. Please rise. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoye haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Please be seated. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz Bayom hahu, Yihyeh Adonai echad, Ushemo echad. There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light, long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. And this evening, we remember Meta Feist, mother of Ellen Mandel, Manuel Rosen, uncle of Judith Stein, Samalia Sarku, mother of Moni Sarku, Bessie Shapiro, aunt of Michelle Miller, Fanny Geller, mother of Cecile Wolochuk, grandmother of Cheryl Bogolob, Elaine Kolber, grandmother of Heather Levine, Saul Retzky, grandfather of Joanne Gallagher, Irene Carlian, cousin of Judith Stein, Rosemary Snyder, mother of Jennifer Snyder, Helen Sikora, mother of James Sikora, Norman Yellen, husband of Wendy Yellen, father of Lindsay, Matthew, and Joshua Yellen, Zafira Asayag, aunt of Nelson Hanan, Philip Karen, grandfather of Lisa Margulies, Natalie Kay, cousin of Jordan Trofimo, Inez Turoff, grandmother of Joseph Turoff, Harry Rosen, uncle of Judith Stein, Clarice Lifson, mother of Lawrence Lifson, grandmother of Michael and Michelle Lifson, Aaron Pelsner, father of Helene Frankfeder, Muriel Richmond, mother of Linda Richmond, Bertha Gutenstein, friend of Etz Chaim. And we also mourn the recent passing of Marcia Kirschenbaum, cousin of Carol Nymark. And of course, this evening, we also remember Edie. Invite everybody to please rise as we turn to page 598 for the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach yurtei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon uvyamechon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehi shemei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'almei almaya, yit barach v'yishtabach v'yit pa'ar v'yit romam v'yit naseh, v'yit hadar v'yit alev v'yit halal shemei dekudasha barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Zichronam livracha, may all of their memories truly be for a blessing. We conclude our service this evening with the words of Not by Might. I think many of you probably know it. If not, it is in the back of your siddur.
Not by might and not by power, but by Spirit alone, shall we all live in peace. Not by might and not by power, but by Spirit alone, shall we all live in peace. The children sing, the children dream, and the tears may fall, but we'll hear them call, and another song will rise, another song will rise, another song will rise. Not by might and not by power, but by Spirit alone, shall we all live in peace. Not by might, not by power, shalom. May we be blessed with Shabbat light, with Shabbat rest, and most of all, God's greatest gift of Shabbat peace as we go out from this Shabbat, renewed and rejuvenated by the strength and love of community and family. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Yasher koach.
Thank you, you too. Yasher
Thank
koach.
you. Yeah, we just roll. We just gotta roll, man.
I can roll with it when I know I need to roll with it.
Yeah, no, you're gonna have to roll with it from now on.
I can do that.
It's gonna make you stronger.
It will. That
You're
is for
strong.
sure.
You're strong already, and it's gonna really make you strong.
I know, because then I'm really going to be able to do whatever.
And it's beautiful because it's a creative thing.
I just, I go with it.
Yeah, it's good. It's
Yeah,
good.
it is very
Baby
good.
blanket,
All the
towels,
things,
stand up,
all the things.